Have you ever woke up one morning and realized that today was the day? Today was the day that you were going to attempt something that no one had ever done before. When you first opened your eyes, the first thing that you saw was the ceiling, and then your own fear right in front of you. And now you had to conquer it. Today I'm going to tell you a story about overcoming fear and how that can change your life. I'm the endurance mountain bike world champion. I've raced in over 15 countries in the most extreme places. But how did it all start? It started in Nepal. It was 2:26 in the morning. I had just woken up at 15,000 feet in a tiny rustic shack. The shack was barely big enough to hold 2 twin-size beds. I was about to do something that no woman had ever done before. Take on this race called the Yak Attack, a 10-day mountain bike stage race across the Annapurna circuit in the Himalaya. Outside that front door was darkness in the world's highest mountain pass, 17,769 feet. But how did I decide to take on this challenge? I had been a pro mountain biker for a few years. I had taken on challenges in my life before that had to do with mountain biking and also in education. I had moved to Boulder, Colorado, and done my master's degree in engineering. But everything I had done in my life up until this point had been predictable. There would be challenges along the way, but I always knew that I would be able to finish. So when I found out about this race, the Yak Attack, and that no woman had ever done it before, I had to do it. I don't know why, but I had to do it. So I signed up for this race, and the challenge was, how do you prepare for the world's highest mountain bike race? The answer is I didn't know. So I did my best. I did research. I talked to people who had been in Nepal before. I booked a plane ticket to Asia, and I got on the plane. I had never been to Asia before. I had barely been outside North America, so just getting to Asia was a feat in itself. I was very nervous to go there. And when I got off the plane 20 hours later, the world as I knew it was chaotic. In Kathmandu, there are no street lights or stop signs. On the road, there were trucks and motorbikes and cows and people and dogs going in every which direction. It's really something else. And the next day, I would have to ride my bike through that. I couldn't read the signs. I mean, the signs were in Nepalese. And there are things that I had never eaten before, things I didn't even know what I was eating. And in Asia, you have to be really careful. In some places, the water is not very sanitary, so you have to be careful in the shower. If water touches your lips, you could get sick. And I did not want to get sick in this race. The first couple days of the race were pretty normal, all uphill, but dusty and hot. The accommodations were tea houses. That's where you stay when you're on treks in Nepal. And the tea houses were pretty modern. But as things started getting higher up, into the higher elevations, there were some very difficult challenges along the way. Like when you're racing, you're in a hurry. You need to get from point A to point B as fast as you possibly can because you need to beat everybody, right? But when I'd be going on this trail, I would hear the sound of bells and have to look and see, what is that? And there'd be trains of donkeys coming straight towards me with one guy whistling and cracking a whip. You have to move out of the way because if you don't, the donkeys will physically move you. I actually got hit by a donkey and pushed off the trail because I was being stubborn. We call that the donkey punch. I also saw really extraordinary Nepalese people. Along the Annapurna circuit, and I'm sure some of you have been there are no roads. There's only one way to get from village to village, and that's on the trail, the hiking trail. The hiking trail is straight up. There are rocks and beautiful waterfalls and really extreme wind and conditions. But I would see these Nepalese people, they had flip-flops on. They were my height. And they had loads this size on them. They were carrying everything you could possibly imagine. I saw a guy carrying a crate of chickens taller than him. I heard the chickens clucking as I went by. I saw a person carrying furniture that could outfit an entire house. The load was twice the size as him. I don't know how he even stood upright. And when he saw me, he started running. Oh, I was insulted. I'm on a bike here, man. Don't try to run away from me. But there were challenges along the way that weren't as pleasant. I was afraid. I was afraid of getting altitude sickness. The higher up you go, conditions get drier and colder. And my doctor warned me that if you start getting symptoms of vomiting or bowel movements or headache, that you could have altitude sickness and that you could die. She urged me, Sonya, if you have any of these symptoms, you need to go back the way you came. You need to go down. I was also afraid of getting sick because there were no ways of getting back. If you got sick, you had to go back the way you came. Sick, by yourself, and into Kathmandu, back to the swirling, chaotic traffic, and find the medical system there and see how that would help you. So every single day I had to live with this fear, and I had to figure out how to overcome it. And how I overcame it was I focused on the things that I could control. It's when we're out of control and when we're looking at things that we don't know what the outcome is going to be, that it gets really scary. But when you don't know the outcome, you just have to focus on what you do know. And what I did know was that I could ride my bike, that I was in shape, that I had a good attitude, and I could move forward every single day. And every single morning, that's what I did. Things got a bit more interesting when we got higher up. This picture was taken around 14,000 feet. There weren't many people left in flip-flops at this altitude. There were hairy yaks. And this race was called the Yak Attack, so I was worried that they would attack, but no. The yaks were very docile. They stood there quietly as you rode by. They blended into the background, and in fact, in this picture, I never even noticed the yak. And finally, I made it to day 9 of 10 of this race. Day 9 was the high camp. You were to spend the night, and day 9 would be the day you go over the world's highest mountain pass. This was beautiful. The air was clear and the sky was blue, but it was cold and rugged. My friend, who I had to share a tea house room with, had fallen very ill. My worst fears realized, and I watched it happen in the bed next to me day after day. The poor guy kept trying. He did not want to give up. He did not want to quit this race, so he kept moving forward very slowly. I waited at this spot for him for hours, waiting and hoping to see him, hoping that he didn't have to go back the way he came by himself. And I finally saw him. And when I did, the doctor said to me, "You need to talk to your friend. We're very, very, very concerned about him. It's possible that he could die if he continued." So how do you have this conversation with somebody? How do you tell them that they need to quit the race? I sat next to him after he got an IV. Medical treatment at 15,000 feet is not what you would expect. I said to him, think about your family, think about your friends. There will be other challenges in your life. Is it worth it? I didn't tell him what to do. I just went to bed and hoped for the best for him. When I woke up in the morning at 2:26 the next day, icy blasts shook the cabin. Outside was everything I was afraid of. Outside was darkness and glaciers and snow and thin air and the unknown. This is by far the earliest I've ever gotten up for anything. It's gonna be tough. It's only 3 miles to the top, but it's supposed to take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. So I'm hoping that everything goes smoothly and it's one step after the other. I'm definitely scared. I'm definitely scared. I have a headlamp on my head and a bike strapped to my back. I had to focus on the things I could control. I could control my pace. I could control listening to my body. I could choose to believe in myself, and that's what I did. I opened up the door and went outside. The start was pretty subdued that day. People probably weren't very awake that early in the morning, but people are also nervous. We shuffled our way up. We started walking, following a train of light on the snow. It was slippery and icy. The cold air stung my face. Droplets from my nose would freeze instantly. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, and I could hear my breath. And you have to take one step after another very slowly, and then you have to stop and catch your breath. When the sun came up, it was so beautiful. There were Annapurna peaks all around me. They looked like big white castles. And I saw the top of the hill. Yes, I'm almost there. I got to the top of the hill, and I realized this isn't the top. And I did that 14 times. The Rangla Pass has 14 false summits. 14 times you think you're almost to the top. But finally, I saw the bright red prayer flags and the sign. That was covered in snow as well. There was lots of snow that year. But I had made it. I had overcome my fear. I had done the hard part. The rest was going to be easy. I made it to 17,769 feet. All I had to do was ride my bike downhill, ride one more day, and I would have made it to the finish. But what happened next might catch you by surprise. It certainly caught me by surprise. I went to get on my bike, and I had no brakes. My brakes didn't work. It was just a Jeep road. I was angry and shocked and devastated. People were riding their bikes by me, laughing and wondering why I wasn't riding my bike. I was not happy.
I have a really long way to walk now, like probably 8 miles downhill. And it's just a Jeep road. So if I could ride it, it would be really quick. To walk the whole way. And I don't even know if I can finish now.
I don't know why I pulled out a camera in this moment of misery. But I did, and I'm glad I did, because this moment changed my life. In this moment, I had a choice. I could have chosen to accept defeat. I could have chosen to be bitter, to say, this is it, I'm never trying anything ever again. I did something and I failed and I'm gonna ruin it, this is it. It's ruined, I'm done. Or I could have defined success in a different way. Initially, success was finishing the race, but now, success was being brave enough to do something that I had never done before. Success was trying. Success was getting on an airplane and believing that I could. It didn't have to be getting to the finish line of this race. And this changed my life. It set my world on fire. When I finally got to the finish line 7 hours later, after walking my bike, something extraordinary happened. My friend showed up. He had ridden a hairy grunting yak over the pass. I would love to hear what his story is. A Sherpa carried his bike over the pass, so his bike also came to the finish line with one working brake, one brake that worked. I had enough tools to actually put that brake on my bike because there's no bike shops, no hardware stores. There's no way to fix anything up there except with your little multi-tool this big. But I got the brake on my bike. I started the next day and I finished the race. I was the first woman to finish the yak attack. But that's not what stands out in my mind when I think about this event. It's this moment of hardship, this moment of feeling completely devastated. We've all felt this way. Not everything goes to plan. It's taking those moments and finding opportunity and positivity and finding ways to make our life better. Being able to take this moment and say, I have succeeded. I've done something that I was afraid to do. That was a success. So I decided to go to the most dangerous place in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti, and race across the Caribbean mountains. I was also afraid to go there, but I focused on what I could control, my knowledge. And I went to Mongolia, and I raced across the steppes of Mongolia amongst wild horses and nomads and slept in yurts. And I even went to the hottest place on the planet, the Sahara Desert, just for good measure. So you might be asking yourself, that's great, Sonya. You're a pro mountain biker, I'm not, and only insane people want to ride their bike across the Sahara Desert. How does this relate to me? Well, last year, I moved to a new country, Canada. And I quit my job because I wasn't happy in my job anymore, and I started my own business. I quit the team I was on because there was no more room for growth, and I started my own partnerships. I took an old business model that wasn't working, and I made my own structure. There was a lot of risk associated with this move. I mean, my whole income and my whole ability to race my bike was tied up in my job and my team. But I was really glad I took this risk. I had to believe that I could. I had to think positive, and I had to focus on the facts and the things that I could control. And it's going really well. I'm into year 2 of that. You can do this too. Every single person in this room has something in their back of their mind that they wish that they could do. Something that they wish they could change, or maybe something as simple as a conversation that they want to have. But you have to get started. If you hate your job, change it. If you need to have a conversation with somebody and you have a lump of fear in your throat, take a deep breath, swallow the lump in your throat, and just start talking. Because the words will come. It's making these changes in our life and being brave enough to step forward and say, I'm willing to try. That's where the magic happens. Failure is giving up. Overcoming fear and redefining success are the keys to making changes and to doing the things in our life that we always wanted to do. And most importantly, look for opportunity and positivity in every stress and every setback, because it's in these moments that we realize that we are far more capable than we ever could have imagined, and our world becomes a much bigger place. When you do these things, you feel so alive and fulfilled and happy, happier than you ever could have imagined. So, what's your next challenge?